Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues of blues, we cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, bye week, almost in the books. One more game left in week 14 before we close the chapter on the Commanders bye week. Totally turn the page to week 15 and the rest of this season. This week 15 begins the rest of our season, and it's been a hell of a year one under Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and company, and we're hoping that this thing ends with a bang. The bye week was really good to us from the perspective of wins and losses and who we needed to win, teams we needed to lose, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone with the exception of one team lost who we needed to lose. And again, I use the term need loosely. We don't need anybody to do anything for us, right? It's more we want teams to lose. That's a better way of phrasing it. Needing would imply that in order for us to be successful, these teams have to lose so that we can gain position or better our positioning to try to make the postseason. Want implies that whether they win or not, they win, they lose, they tie, it doesn't really have that big of an impact on us as long as we take care of our business. So I stress this again, and this was the talking point prior to the bye. We have to take care of ourselves. When we were going through that 3-game skid and it felt like the sky was falling, one of the things I continued to hearken back to, and I love that head coach Dan Quinn has really focused in on that, is we got to control what we can control, and we just got to take it 1 week at a time. And, you know, the mantra and the rallying cry that they had before the start of the season, they put up a big, wallpaper of it within the facility was, the most important fight is the one that we're in, right? That is the mantra moving forward for me. I got carried away. I'm guilty as charged. I started looking down the road. I started being like the media members and wanting to talk about 4 or 5 weeks down the road. Hey, we can run the table. We can do this. We can get the number 1 seed. We can get a first round bye. I started talking reckless. I allowed my brain to wander, and I didn't stay the course. That 3-game losing streak refocused me. It made me put my attention where it needed to be. All I needed to focus on going into week 13 was the Tennessee Titans. As a fan, that's all I cared about. That's all the team needed to care about. And you saw that laser-like focus pay off in them taking care of business. You go into the bye week. You have your agenda of what you would like to see happen. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But we heard from head coach Dan Quinn today, and he reiterated that message of, hey, finishing the season, winners of 5 straight would be nice. But guess what? We can't worry about anything other than the New Orleans Saints. That's it. And we'll talk more about that. He said something that was very profound that I thought was, pretty cool. He shared, we'll save that for when we talk about what DQ had to say. But what I want to talk about right now to start this show off was the bye week itself. I laid out a game plan for you as a fan over the weekend if you were going to consume NFL action to enjoy the stress-free weekend of not having to worry about a Commanders outcome, not sweating in the fourth quarter, which, they've done us a huge solid this year. We've been in the fourth quarter enjoying 40 burgers more than enough times this year, and in games where the outcome of the game was not in question, we had already taken care of business. So they've actually been really good to us this year from a health standpoint, right? Not so many of you being on these hospital tables, needing to be brought back to life because the team nearly killed you. But how about just enjoying the football, right? But I did lay out a plan for you of who you should or shouldn't be rooting for this weekend. Look, at the end of the day, you do what you want to do. But if you're rooting with this team's best interest in mind, then I gave you a plan of what you should be rooting for. So let's take a look at the outcomes from week number 14. It was a really good week for the Commanders to be on a bye week, to get healthy, to rejuvenate, reinvigorate, and also create space and distance in the playoff picture. So Thursday night kicked off the week 14 activities, and we talked about this on the Friday show that the Lions did us a huge solid by beating the Green Bay Packers. If there's any hope of the Commanders getting to the 6th seed, that is a need situation, right? We need the Packers to lose. We need help from other teams to help propel us to the 6th seed. We cannot get the 6th seed without the Packers losing games, right? They are ahead of us. We need to at least finish tied with them. So we have to first, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, we first have to take care of our business. Doesn't matter if the Packers lose 3 out of their final 4 games. If we don't win 3 out of our final 4 games, or if we don't win all of the games that we need to win, it doesn't matter, right? It does not matter. So we have to take care of business. So it starts there. But it was nice to have the Packers go down. Now we're just a game back of the Packers for the 6th seed. So that's something to keep in the, sort of in your peripheral vision, so to speak. But again, my focus is on the team in front of us, and that's the Saints this week. And so in the peripheral, it's the Green Bay Packers and the potential of the 6th seed, but laser light focus on the Saints, right? But that was a good kickoff to Week 14's activities with the Packers going down at the hands of the Lions. Not to mention the Lions staying at the top of the conference, keeping the Eagles on their hip. That also was good to see. There. Sunday, we talked about the Dolphins, us having one of their picks, how losing would actually benefit us. I did not realize that until someone brought it up last week when I was talking about rooting interests. And so I said, hey, if you want to throw the Dolphins in there and rooting for the Jets to beat the Dolphins, go right ahead, knock yourself out. And for 59 minutes and probably 56 seconds, the Jets were doing exactly that. And then they allowed the Dolphins to tie the game up, send it to overtime, and then obviously they lost the game because they're a bad team. So the Dolphins did prevail. Not really something that was high on the radar, high on the priority list, so to speak. But again, if you were rooting for something good to happen for the Commanders in that particular game, Dolphins losing would have improved draft status for the Commanders. I believe we have their 3rd round pick. So, yeah, that would have been nice to see them lose the game, but they didn't. This was the one we needed or wanted to really see happen. Vikings taking down the Falcons. They did that. We talked about this. Vikings or Falcons and or Bucks needed to lose. Both did not need to win. That was not beneficial for us. And we knew the Bucks were going to beat the Raiders. The Raiders are a terrible team. And so if you had to pick one of the two to lose, you're like, hey, Minnesota, do what you're supposed to do at home. And they did that, destroying the Atlanta Falcons 42-21. Falcons now drop below 500. So that's another team that is 2 games back of Washington in any wild card discussion. Saints, Giants, that was a game that I told you you really could root for whoever you wanted. If you're rooting for the demise of the Giants, then you want them to win the game because then they'll be playing themselves out of the number 1 pick and getting the quarterback that they so desire. I have no desires to stop the Giants from getting the quarterback of whatever they think is who the best guy is in this draft. I don't care. I don't think any of these quarterbacks are great. Maybe stands for Shedeur Sanders. And I think he comes with a lot of baggage that I'm not really willing to. That's not my problem. I'll just say that. It's not my problem. So whatever they decide to do, good for them. Saints were our next opponent on the calendar. So like I said, you could go either way with that one. But the biggest takeaway from that game is Derek Carr on a late scramble trying to secure the victory, injured himself. fell on his head, fell on his arm, or hand, broke his hand, and also was in the concussion protocol. He's not playing in this game against the Commanders, which I already thought we were going to kick their ass before Derek Carr got injured. I really expect us to throttle them now that they're going to have to put in one of these backup quarterbacks, whether it be Jake Haener, or the rookie quarterback, Spencer Rattler, whatever the case may be. Looking forward to getting another win over the New Orleans Saints. But they took care of the Giants 14-11. Panthers, Eagles, all we were looking for was a scare to be put into the Eagles. If the Panthers somehow won, that would be crazy. Didn't expect it. But I did think they could be competitive, but I expected the Eagles to not only win, but win going away. I just thought it would be close for like 2 quarters, 2.5 quarters, and then the Eagles would pull away. That is not, I repeat, not what happened in this game. The Eagles literally got away by the skin on their backs. Like, literally, they should have lost this game. If Xavier Legette could catch, they'd lose this game because their kicker can't kick a 50-yard field goal. So they would have had to get like into the 40s in order for Jake Elliott, who missed another 50-yard field goal in this game, which they turned down an opportunity to put the Panthers out of their misery by kicking a 50, I think it would have been a 53-yard field goal, something like that, 54. They turned down that opportunity because Jake Elliott is a mess right now, and he pushed a 52-yard field goal wide right in this game. And so they have no confidence, zero confidence in him to kick a 50-yard field goal, which is an issue, but that's no here nor there. They hung on for the victory, 22-16. But it was fun watching them squirm and struggle against a 3-win team at home. But they got the win. They're 11-2, and they remain atop the division. Browns, Steelers, really no rooting interest there. Bucks, Raiders, we talked about the Raiders not being a competitive enough team to take down a team like Tampa Bay. The opportunities were there. The Buccaneers played down to the level of their competition, where the Raiders are just awful, and they proved that throughout the course of this game. And so the Bucks won that game, improved to 7-6. Really, the Falcons are now in trouble. The Bucks have now passed them. That's all the Bucks needed to do. Now they just need to keep winning. The Bucks have a very advantageous schedule down the stretch. The Falcons have a much tougher schedule. It's not looking good for Atlanta, but that's not our problem. We're a part of the Falcons' problem. We hope to be, at least. We play them in week 17, and we look to take care of business when that opportunity presents itself. But Buccaneers take care of business. They improve to 7-6 and take sole possession of first place in the NFC South. I don't think they're going to relinquish that. Jags, Titans, whew. You would have to pay me to watch that football game. That was nasty work, but somebody had to win. Another game that we really wanted to go in a certain direction was Seahawks, Cardinals. We wanted the Cardinals to lose, and they did. So they dropped to 6-7, along with the Atlanta Falcons. So everything was going swell for us. The one game that we didn't think we really needed to worry about were the Bills heading to the Rams. And that's the one that ultimately didn't go our way. That's the only game in week number 14 that didn't go the way we wanted it to go. And that was the Bills going to L.A. and simply not being able to get a stop the entire day. I'm not sure if the Rams punted once in that game. What a crazy game. It was a shootout. Bills fall to the Rams 44-42. Rams are now 7-6, and they're very dangerous. And I really want to focus in on the Rams for a second, because if there's someone that would catch us, it'd be them. Now, I told you I still don't think they're a good team, but this is the thing that you have to take into consideration when you talk about the Rams, and it's Sean McVay in the month of December. Look, the Rams can be, mid for 2 months out of the season. They'll start off solid, or they'll start off bad in September. They'll get their act together in October. They'll fall off the wagon in November, or they'll be mid all the way through. But as soon as December hits and that calendar turns to December, Sean McVay turns it up. They did it last year. They've done it in years past, and it looks like they're going to try and do it again this year. That was a hell of a win over the Buffalo Bills, who were riding as high as any team in the NFL at the time of that victory. To silence the Bills in the manner that they did, it makes the Rams a very scary team. And here's their remaining schedule, right? Quick turnaround on the road at San Francisco. The 49ers are fighting for their lives, so that's a big one for the 49ers at home. I don't trust the 49ers, and neither should you, right? But we'll see what happens in that game. Normally, Kyle Shanahan has Sean McVay's number, but that wasn't the case earlier this year when the 49ers were beating the Rams to a pulp, and then in the fourth quarter, they blew a 14-point lead and lost that game. So I don't trust the 49ers right now to do anything, even though they absolutely slaughtered the Bears, as you can see, 38-13. But so they've got the quick turnaround Thursday night football on the road at the 49ers. 3 out of their final 4 games are divisional games to finish up. Then they have a cupcake game against the Jets in week number 16. You expect them to take care of that. Then in week 17, they have the Arizona Cardinals, I believe. Either them or the Seahawks. And then they finish up with whoever they don't have in week 17. So it's either 49ers, Jets, Seahawks, Cardinals, or 49ers, Jets, Cardinals, Seahawks. Either way, they're all winnable games for them, right? Fighting for the division, all of that good stuff. Should be an interesting finish. They're going to lose at least 1 or 2 more games, I believe. But don't count out Sean McVay is essentially what I'm getting at. But here's another interesting thing to note. Again, if we take care of business, they're a non-factor, right? But just for the sake of the discussion, I went and took the liberty to see what the Rams, losses look like this year. They've lost 6 games. 5 of them are in the conference. So really, they've eaten good, which they should have, off of AFC opponents. They've beaten the Patriots. They beat the Bills. They beat another AFC team, and they lost to the Dolphins, and they still have the Jets. So they've gotten fat off of AFC opponents, but they've struggled within the conference. 5 of their 6 losses are in the conference. So if we got to a tiebreaker scenario, we got a lot of leeway in front of us when it comes to that with them. So again, we're in a great position to tell you, we just need to take care of business, pretty much. Any loss by the Rams puts us squarely in the driver's seat, right? They're the only team that has 7 wins that's currently in pursuit of one of those wild card spots. Because the Falcons lost, because the Cardinals lost, everyone else is at 6 wins. 49ers won, they improved to 6 and 7. Nobody else in that conversation has 7 wins except the Rams. So they're the only team that's just a game back of the Commanders for the 7th and final spot in the NFC playoffs. However, they have a tough schedule, right? Division games are always tough, no matter what the records are. And they got the Jets. So we just got to take care of business at the end of the day. But everything really went the way we wanted it to go. Stands for the Rams taking care of business. Stands for the Rams. But of all the teams, the Cardinals were the ones that scared me the most because they had the softest schedule to finish up the season. And we own the tiebreaker over them because we beat them head-to-head. So I wasn't as concerned, but I still was concerned about them. Not concerned anymore. Now we just got to take care of business, and everything will take care of itself. So let's transition to in other news. We heard from head coach Dan Quinn for the first time since the bye, and he looks refreshed. And he said that today was a great day with the players. We'll talk more about what he had to say in a second. I did want to make mention of this before I forget. One of the things he talked about in the press conference, Nikki Javala asked pretty early on in his presser about the kicking situation. And she was not very clear as to what it was she was asking initially. So he was kind of like flummoxed, like, what are you asking me about the kicking situation? And she was really trying to see what they were going to do from a roster standpoint. Like, are they going to put Zane Gonzalez on the active roster? Are they going to sign him to the active roster, et cetera, et cetera? And he was like, yeah, well, oh, okay. I see where you're coming from. He probably was asking her, he probably thought she was asking him from the standpoint of, hey, are y'all going to go sign a kicker? Zane Gonzalez stinks. And, they're going to obviously ride it out with Zane Gonzalez. And look, if we're being honest, he had one bad game, right? He's made all of his extra points, and he missed 2 kicks against the Titans in a game where we didn't need his field goals. But again, that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy, because what happens when you do need them, right? But, prior to that, he had made all of his kicks. We had no issues with him. So they're going off of that, right? They're comfortable with his kickoffs. They're comfortable with him kicking the football. So they're going to stick with Zane Gonzalez. I advocate for signing the serial kicker. Now, the Vikings got their rookie kicker, Will Richard, back off of IR. And the guy that was kicking in the absence of their rookie kicker, John Parker Romo, was 11 for 12 with a high of 55 and a game winner against the Bears. He kicked really well. I would love to see Washington sign the serial kicker. I think he would upgrade the position. He may even be better than Austin Seibert. I'm not ready to bail on Austin Seibert yet, like most of you probably are. I just want him to get healthy, which he's doing right now on IR. But if you were looking for a better fill-in for Austin Seibert, I think the serial kicker, John Parker Romo, would have been your better option. Little disappointed that they didn't at least bring him in for a Tuesday workout, see how they felt after he was waived by the Vikings, just to kind of check the temperature and the pulse of what he could potentially be. You can't keep telling us that you're all about competition and there's an opportunity for you to upgrade a position that is going to mean a ton to this team down the stretch, and not bring in a guy that may be able to upgrade the position. You can't tell us about competition out of one side of your mouth, and then the opportunity presents itself for you to provide competition for a position that needs it, and then don't take advantage of that opportunity. So I'm a little disappointed that they're not going to at least give John Parker Romo a spin. I really think the serial kicker could upgrade the position, but doesn't seem like they're interested in competition at the kicking spot. And so I just wanted to make mention of that. But in any event, speaking of DQ, he had his press conference today. He started it off by talking about how important today was, coming back from the bye. It's like the first day of school all over again, kind of getting guys back into the swing of things, seeing the guys with a pep in their step and kind of that twinkle in their eyes, so to speak, getting that rest, being refreshed, ready to go. He's like, it would have not been beneficial to them if there was no Monday, right? If they would have come off the bye and jumped straight into Wednesday, he felt like it would be somewhat problematic. But because they had this opportunity to get everybody back in there, kind of debrief them, so to speak, right? Get all of that bye week energy out of them, get them refocused, back to business as normal, get them back in the building, get them back used to what it is that they do. And now you hit the ground running and you get ready to finish this season off with a bang, right? So he talked about the importance of today in that process. He then talked about some of the injuries that were sustained. And I would have liked if some of the reporters would have asked about some of the other players, but I guess that's a more appropriate topic for Wednesday when the injury reports come out and you have a chance to really see, who's where and what. The bye week might have provided Quan Martin with an opportunity to be fine and not even on the injury report, right? The bye week might have provided an opportunity for somebody else went down in that last game versus Tennessee. I can't recall who it was, but the bye week might have provided an opportunity for it was the receiver Noah Brown, right? The bye week might have provided him with an opportunity to get fully healthy, and he's not even on the injury report, right? So I guess you just wait and see on Wednesday when that first injury report is announced for the Saints game. But he talked about Marshawn Lattimore. Obviously, John Kahn right out of the gates. I love that. Just let's get the elephant out of the room right now. Asked him about Marshawn Lattimore, and he was like, look, he's hit every mile marker. He did a lot of speed training over the bye week. We've been very pleased with everything we've seen from him. We're going to continue to work him. The staff has done a tremendous job of making sure we haven't missed a step. And we're going to continue that process this week. But as far as, we're concerned, as long as everything goes off without a hitch, he should be practicing with the team on Wednesday. We'll go from there. We'll see how he feels. And then, we'll make a determination as to, his status after we get through the week of work. But right now, like we've been told by multiple sources, including Adam Schefter, if all goes according to plan, he should be available and making his Commanders debut on Sunday versus former team, the New Orleans Saints, in week number 15. So that is great news. If you're a Commanders fan, you're finally getting to play with that toy that we got on Christmas that we didn't have batteries for. We finally got those batteries after a month or so. But we can finally play with that new shiny toy that we've been waiting on for so long. So that was great news. He talked about Andrew Wiley. He said that this bye week came at the perfect time for him. He was able to go through that process and of the concussion protocol. He has since exited that protocol and should be able to practice on Wednesday, full week's work, and get back out there to make the offensive line whole again. I don't know if you guys paid attention to this, but they did put Austin Eckler on IR. So his regular season is pretty much done. Now, they put him on IR, I believe, prior to the Titans game. If not post-Titans game, whatever the case may be, either he's back for the final regular season game against Dallas or he's back for the postseason. Either way, his season does not necessarily have to be done, but his regular season sort of feels like it is. But, we'll see where that goes. But those were the main injuries that he discussed. And again, we'll see all the rest of them and how they fared over the bye week when that first injury report comes out for the Commanders on Wednesday. He talked about, the focus of this team. And he said that the thing that he's been really harping on and kind of beating to a pulp, which I love, like continue to beat this in the head of the players, is we have to have laser-like focus on the next upcoming opponent and nothing else. Nothing else matters. Scott Abraham is a quote machine. He wants a quote. He wants something juicy he can run with for his news program. And Rivera was always a sucker, and he'd always get one out of Rivera. Like he teed up a perfect Ronald Rivera question. Do you tell your players that, with 4 games left, you control your destiny? First of all, you don't control destiny, but okay, I'm not going to be an asshole about that. We've talked about that enough. But he said, do you tell your players with 4 games left that they control their destiny and all you have to do is win out and you're going to the playoffs? And he had already talked about it once, like for like 3-4 minutes. So it was something he really hammered home early in the press conference. And so he's like, you must have just got on here, Scott, because I know you're not asking me about 4 games, and looking essentially a month ahead, because it's all about 1 game at a time for us. So he's like, I'm going to tell the players what I've been telling. He said, that's for you guys in the media and people outside of this building to do, is to talk about, 3-4 games ahead down the road, this, that, and the third. Our focus is the Saints. That's it. And he said, I told him we're no longer at base camp, but we're not at the summit either. And there's little, steps that you have to hit along the way to try to get to that summit. And that's what we're doing. And we're not going to miss a step. We're not going to miss an opportunity to, get after it. And he said, the most important fight is the one that we're in. And the one that we're in this week is New Orleans Saints, and that's it. And we got to control what we can control, and we can control how we prepare and get ready for the New Orleans Saints. And so I love that. Because Ronald would have gave Scott Abraham, yeah, I've told the players, we just got to win the games. And if we win, we're going to be in the play. Like, he would have gave him the quote he was looking for. And DQ has shut Scott Abraham down all year long. Scott's been looking for those money quotes, and DQ's just not playing that game with him. Like, I'm not riding a roller coaster with you, bro. So I love that the focus continues to be one game at a time. That's the way it's got to be. We even heard from some of the players that they got a little carried away, just like we did as fans, right? That's human nature. And that's why you need a coaching staff to refocus you and get you to understand what's the most important thing. And when you're 7-2 and people telling you how great you are and you're one of the 3 or 4, best teams in the league, I mean, that was a realistic thing at 7-2. People had us top 3 in their power rankings, top 4 in their power rankings. Like, when's the last time we were in that vein, right? And so you do allow yourself to start thinking, what if? What if? And they might have gotten a little ahead of themselves, just like we did as fans. And they got humbled and they got refocused, and we're hoping to finish this thing on a high note. And DQ said you hate having to go through some of those struggles, right? But he's like, it's almost a necessary evil. Like, he said, you don't want to say you have to lose in order to, make the proper and necessary corrections and get the level of focus, but sometimes that's necessary, right? Like, you can try and give people lessons, but until they actually experience the negative that comes from not achieving a goal, and the repercussions of it is probably the best way to put it. Until you suffer the repercussions of not doing what you're supposed to do, it's easy to avoid the hard stuff, right? If you're winning, that's the best deodorant there is. You can mask deficiencies. You can bury your head in the sand if you're winning. Like, if we continue to win, the Terry thing might not get brought up. It might not have been put under a microscope, right? If you're continuing to win, maybe the balance with the run game doesn't get fixed, right? Maybe Jaden's ability to, maneuver in and out of the pocket, maybe he's not looking to throw the football on the move. Maybe these things don't get fixed if you continue to win. But because you lose, these things become, magnified. And now, look, we're searching for answers to fix this thing. And you stumble upon getting back to the basics of who we are and what we do and how we operate. And voila, now we feel like we're in a position to go out and execute and play, winning football down the stretch. And so he talked about that, that they went through that fire. And he said, I wouldn't rather do it with any other group than the one I'm doing it with. And he said one of the things that he's learned about this team is that they're resilient. They're resilient. He's like, this is a really resilient bunch, and they're tough as nails. And I agree with that. He said they're never out of it. And look, you can say what you want about this team and what they've done or haven't done this season, what they've accomplished, and games that they've let slip through their fingers. But think about all the games that they've won or roared back in that probably shouldn't have even been the way that they were. The Bears game obviously is at the top of that pile, but also the Cowboys game, even though we ended up losing that game, that was another potential miracle finish. This team is never out of it. Is the big takeaway there. It's like they never quit. They're never out of it. Even when you want to turn off the television, even when you want to turn off your app and you're like, this game's over, don't, because this team seems to find a way to make it interesting. Even the Eagles game, when it kind of got away from them there late, they went down, they scored the touchdown, got the 2-point conversion, and that thing got within an onside kick. You know what I mean? And having gone through what we've went through this season, anything's possible, right? So this team is never truly out of it, ever. And DQ spoke to that, and he said that there are some things that he does want to see cleaned up and that they did, kind of harp on over the bye week. They got to win the turnover battle even more so moving forward. He's like, we got to improve that number. I think right now we're like +6, I believe. We got 2 more turnovers in the win over Tennessee, but we gave one away. So we only improved by 1. I think we were +5 going into that game. So I think we're +6 on the season, which is solid. It's really good, right? It's a vast improvement when we were one of the worst plus-minus teams in the league last year. But, you want so much more for this team. And DQ kind of, highlighted that. Like, we need to take it away more. Without giving it away is the big thing if you want to continue to improve on your plus minus category. He talked about the ability to make tackles and to make people miss tackles. So he talked about like that's something they're going to really, harp on, preach, and practice is how do they, make more people miss tackles, and on the flip side, how do they get guys on the ground better? So tackling is big. He said, look, the line of scrimmage is huge, especially when you get to this time of the year into December, January, and hopefully February. You got to be able to control the line of scrimmage. But he's like, that's true for any football, any time of the year. It doesn't matter. The line of scrimmage on both sides is where it's at. And so we got to continue to improve there as well. And so, which we all know is the key. This team is much better when the offensive line is playing like they did against the Titans in Week 13. We're a tough team to beat when the offensive line is executing at a high level. So that goes without saying. He also talked about something Magic Johnson shared with the team. DQ talked about falling in love with the process, right? He's like, that's been a hot phrase over the last 5 to 10 years is enjoying the process, falling in love with the process. Kirk Cousins was the one that really brought that to our attention. What was that? 2016 is when he started talking about the process, when McVay was still here. So that's 2016, when he was talking about the process. And Kirk was like, I'm not really worried about the results. I'm all into the process. If you execute the process, the results will take care of itself. DQ's like, Magic Johnson came in and added a word to that changed his whole outlook on that phrase. And he said, you got to fall in love with the process of winning. All right. And DQ was like, I thought that one word at the end changed everything there, because it's cool to fall in love. Like, that's why I would always be disconnected from Kirk Cousins when he would talk about the process, because I'm like, well, the process doesn't always lead to winning. I'm all about winning, right? What the process looks like this week, it may not look like next week. You might have the perfect process this week, lose, have a sloppy process next week, and win. I really don't give a shit about your process if it's not getting us dubs. I don't care, right? And so I'm all about Magic Johnson's way of looking at it. Fall in love with the process of winning. Like, whatever you did last week to throttle Tennessee, fall in love with that process. Do that shit. Rinse and repeat that shit again, right? That's what we want. I don't want the process from the week prior when you came out flat and lethargic and lost to Dallas. I don't want that process. I want the process that you had against the Titans. I want the process you had against the Panthers. I want the process you had against the Browns and the Cardinals, right? I want you to fall in love with the process of winning. And I thought that was awesome to hear him talk about that. And, he pretty much talked about, he was asked about the Dan Campbell decision to go for it on that 4th down late in that game instead of kicking the field goal. And he had a long-winded answer that pretty much said, context matters. That's what he should have just said. Hey, context matters. And, it does. It's a massive, like, in that particular game, Dan Campbell knew, and he even said it after the game, he didn't go out and call out his defense saying they weren't going to get a stop. But he said, I believe in my offense. But he also said, how the game was going, I didn't want to give it back to Jordan Love and the Packers. Translation, my defense wasn't going to stop them. So instead of putting them in a position where they were going to have to get a stop that they weren't going to get and probably having to go to overtime and beat them all over again, let's just end it right now, right? Let's give ourselves the best chance. Let's go win the game on offense so we don't have to worry about them possessing the football. And it worked out. And DQ said it worked. So it was a great call, right? But DQ wouldn't have done that shit. And I wouldn't have done it either. So I can't fault DQ for that little goofy smirk he had when he said it worked out. So it was a great call. Because I would have kicked the field goal too. I thought that was a little risky, but it paid off. And you got to know your team. Like for us, we probably need to go for it in that situation. Knowing the background of our defense and how we don't get stops in pivotal situations late in games, we probably would have needed to do that too in the game on offense with the ball, with a walk-off field goal opportunity, because knowing our defense, they would have let the Packers or whomever our opponent was walk right down the field and have a chance at a field goal to tie the game up, send it to overtime. So context is everything. He talked about Sheldon Day and his impact. And I told you guys, I'm a big Sheldon Day fan. He's been really good for us this year. And he was a team captain last week in the game against Tennessee. And someone asked about Sheldon Day's impact, and he called him a glue guy. And I just say he's been one of the more impactful defensive linemen, the interior ones, from a standpoint of drawing holding penalties, playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage, just being disruptive in general. That's what Sheldon Day has brought to the table. I've loved his activity since week one. He had to play significant snaps in week one because Johnny Newton was not back from his injury his surgery that he had gotten in the offseason, and they were kind of taking it slow with him. And so he wasn't ready to go in week one against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sheldon Day got a lot of his reps, and I was very impressed. And I have been pretty much all season long. And DQ's like, he's a steady influence on this team, whether he's up or he's down, because not every week he's active, right? But when he is active, and I can't think of the last time he wasn't active, to be honest with you. Since Jonathan Allen's injury, he's pretty much been active every single week, at least to my knowledge. But there were some weeks, obviously, after Johnny Newton got healthy, he wasn't active. He probably wasn't active for a good 5-week stretch before Allen got injured. And then I think he's been active every week. And he's been just as consistent as guys like Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez Jr. have been when their numbers have been called. And so, I mean, he's just another one of those guys that have been selfless, put their ego aside, and did whatever was for the betterment of the team. And when their number was called, they were ready for action. And he's another guy that kind of is, I think, very representative of what the culture that they've built and instilled is right now. So he talked about Sheldon Day and his impact as well. So that was the gist of DQ's presser today. A lot of good stuff. I think we'll get a better sense of where we are from a health standpoint on Wednesday. We can start to kind of dissect that. But, one of the biggest takeaways from Sunday was Derek Carr going down. That's our next opponent. He's not playing in the game on Sunday. So it's just another opportunity for us to take care of business, get that much closer to clinching a playoff berth, and putting ourselves in a position to play January football. Looking forward to that. The bye is almost over. Dallas plays tonight against Cincinnati. That'll, officially end our bye week. I hope you enjoyed it. I did thoroughly, and I'm ready for the stretch run. I will admit, I did not miss the fellas playing because of the anxiety that comes with them playing. I'm just a high-strung individual when the fellas are on the television. However, I did miss seeing them, right? It is fun watching them play. You're more invested in a Commanders game than any other game on the schedule, but I did not miss the stress that comes with the Commanders game, even though they've made it a lot less stress-free this year, or a lot more stress-free this year. It's still stressful nonetheless. I was stressing at 28-7. I was stressing at 28-10. I was stressed at 28-13. I was definitely stressed. Okay, so I'm just a high-strung individual when it comes to this team in any regard. But I digress. Feels good to be back, and I'm looking forward to this stretch run from the fellas. So, tell me how your bye week went. Leave it down in the comment section. And do you think the Commanders should upgrade their kicking position. I would have, if you're going to continue to tell me about competition, here was an opportunity to provide competition at a position that has been less than stellar that could use a shot in the arm. I'm not telling you to get rid of Zane Gonzalez, but it would not have hurt you to bring in John Parker Romo, the serial kicker, for an opportunity to kick on a Tuesday, to try out, just to see if you felt better about his leg and his process moving forward while you wait for Austin Seibert to continue to mend. But they're going to stick with Zane Gonzalez. DQ has made that abundantly clear. They're not bailing on him, which is, look, I can respect that, right? I can respect that you don't bail on a guy the first sight of trouble. That's why I'm not bailing on Austin Seibert. He's built up equity with me, even though those knuckleball kicks do scare me. He's been far more consistent than any other kicker we've had this season and last season and the year before that. But I just want him to get fully healthy, which is what he's currently doing on IR. I would like to see them at least produce competition there. And they had a perfect opportunity with the serial kicker being available. But clearly they're not going to do it. But anyway, enjoy Monday Night Football and polishing off this bye week. And then we're going to hit the ground running tomorrow, turn our attention and our sights to the New Orleans Saints and get ready for the stretch run of this season. And it's been a fun ride thus far, and I expect it to be even more fun finishing up. Until then, you guys take care, have a good one, and I'll see you next time for Commanders Nightly News.
Here comes the Diesel. Here comes the Diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35.